In this video, I'm going to break down the most important piece of your cold outbound process to ensure that you only have qualified speaking opportunities and leads entering into your funnel. If you nail this piece, you will save yourself so much time and so much energy. And when you do actually get a positive response and have an active deal and opportunity coming from your cold outbound efforts, it will be a perfectly qualified opportunity and you won't be dealing with any junk or any bad or budget unqualified speaking opportunities. What is going on, y'all? Joe Johnston here from SpeakerScale, where we help stuck speakers build predictable speaking revenue engines through proven speaker business systems and processes. And in today's video, I'm gonna be breaking down the number one thing that I wish I knew and I wish we had the knowledge of when we started running cold outbound lead generation for our own speaking business 7 years ago, and that we really only just discovered over the past year. And that number one thing is your targeting. So when we really look at cold outbound and the funnel that is your speaking funnel that you're looking to develop when it comes to cold outbound, I'm gonna pop over here to my iPad. What we're looking at is ultimately ensuring that what we put in on the front end and what we put into top of funnel is the most qualified opportunities. So let me draw this out here. And so when we're looking at this, we want to ensure that anything that comes into the funnel, whether it's coming from cold outbound, whether it's coming from ads, whether it's coming from your content, is only qualified opportunities. Now, the great thing about cold outbound, which starts up here at the top of the funnel, is that you can control it. And you can control who you target. If you're running ads, if you're running content, you can gear it towards certain audiences and you can target, but when you're running cold outbound, you can specifically target and specifically choose what individuals and what targets you are focused on and who you're reaching out to. And that is the number one most important thing when you're running cold outbound, is that anything you're putting into the top of funnel coming from cold outbound and that we're putting time and energy and resources into is going to be the most qualified opportunities, so that as we put the work and as we put in the time and resources to push that stuff more middle of funnel and eventually bottom of funnel, that is going to be only the most qualified leads and opportunities, right? And so again, for years, we had targeting and we knew certain organizations, we knew certain titles of the right people, but this advanced sort of targeting methodology we didn't have. And so for years, probably the first 6 years of running my speaking business and agency, if we got a good opportunity, we'd find out on the sales call. So we were finding out like here in the funnel. We were finding out like somewhere in middle of funnel. And so at that point, we had put in all this time and energy and effort to get someone actually on a sales call. I would run a 15, 20, 30-minute discovery with them. And then at the end of the call, I'd kind of be qualifying and asking around budget. And it was like a 50% chance that they just didn't have the budget that we played within. It was a 50% chance that I'd ask them the budget question and they'd say, we don't really pay speakers, or we only usually pay a couple $1,000s. And so at that point, my time, my team and I had spent time, energy, and resources. We'd probably spent, a couple $100 to get the lead. We'd spent a couple hours to qualify the lead, reaching out to the lead. And, by the time we're at the end of the call, that's not the time when you want to be finding out that this prospect is not qualified. And so a year ago, and this would be 2025, the 2025 speaking year, I made a conscious effort that we're going to do a lot of outreach. We had really, at that point, that was like our first or second full year in the corporate space, really focused on that corporate space, corporate association space. And we said, we're going to do a bunch of outreach and just get data. And so we put a lead gen prospect sheet into effect. And I basically tracked every single sales call that we had, every single lead that came in. And we tracked the industry, we tracked the size of the opportunity, the size of the company. We tracked the title of the individual. We tracked, those were the main things that we were tracking. And then we tracked basically the size of the opportunity. So what did they have for a budget? And what we found is that after a full year, and at the end of 2025, as we were planning our strategic planning coming into 2026, we were very, very clear. And then we looked back, right? We looked back on all the data at the end of the year. in terms of the sales calls, in terms of the actual clients that we had, the opportunities, our top partners versus like our A, our B, our C level partners. And we just noticed trends and we got really, really clear on our personal ICP. And so, the first quarter of this year of 2026, we've not only booked more qualified calls, but our CRM is now filled with only ICPs. And all of the time and energy and resources that we're spent actually doing the outreach and doing the top of funnel stuff is towards ICP. And so I could go into my CRM right now and pick basically any lead, and they're going to be the lead that is one of our top 2 ICPs. We have a corporate ICP, we have an association/association management, event management company ICP. And so it's like the money that we're paying, the time that we're spending actually doing the outreach and going into things was only spent on the highest quality prospects. And it just makes everything so much better inside your business, knowing that the couple $1,000 a month you're spending on marketing, on advertising, on doing the outreach is actually going towards the right buyers. And I now have actually, in both of my businesses, we've done this for both businesses, SpeakerScale and MII, I now have less sales calls on my calendar and more qualified calls. And so we're closing more deals, we're making more money, and we're doing that with less time and energy and effort, which is ultimately the goal of any self-sustaining organization. And with AI coming and being here, that's what you want to do. You want to find the way to get the result in the quickest and easiest way possible. And that allows me to do more things like record high value content, lead my team, develop new products, find different ways to serve these clients, market more effectively and better, and spend time after this, going to the gym for a couple hours, right? Because the business is functioning at a higher level. And so this is very important, is what I just basically spent the last 7 minutes telling you. And so what do we do? Let's actually get into what it looks like to target. So there's really a couple simple ways that we're looking at targeting, but it really all starts in the research phase. And so what we teach our clients is really 2 methods of outreach, but it really starts in the research phase. We kind of teach our clients 2 methods of outreach, which is going to be through LinkedIn, and then it's going to be more, I don't have a good word for it, but manual email outreach, email or cold calling outreach. We love cold calls, by the way. If you're not cold calling, you should. We have a full video on how to make 500 plus cold calls a day at $2,000 a month spend, and you could spend less on that if you were doing the cold calling yourself. But we teach basically email slash calls, and then LinkedIn outreach. And so the first thing that we have to do before any of this, the first principles, is that you understand your ICP and you've achieved message to market fit. And so what we mean by that is when I hop on a call with you, or my team hops on a call with a client or a prospect, and I say, who's your ICP? And you say, what's an ICP? Dude, come on, what are we doing? And so you need to understand your ICP, your ideal client profile, and you need to have message to market fit. And so, we work for blue collar. I work for blue collar organizations, and I help them understand the importance of their employees so that they can retain them and make more money, or whatever your expert positioning statement. You need to have message to market fit, and that your message and what you're selling actually is something that your buyer buys, and you're validated by that in your speaking, and the market has validated that. We then create an ICP document for your team and for everyone to understand, and your ICP document is basically going to inform your research. So understanding your ICP, understanding your unique value proposition, your unique expert positioning statement, and being validated by your ICP in your market is the first piece to the puzzle. Once you have that in place, that's then going to inform all of the targeting. And so for LinkedIn, it's very basic to do your targeting. On LinkedIn, they have search criteria that you can do when you're searching. And so you have the titles, and this isn't just the titles. Titles are important. So you have the titles for LinkedIn in the corporate world. That's learning and development, HR, VPs of sales, right? Okay, cool. Now we need to understand the industries of the company. We need to understand what is the size, employees, right? Employee size, is there an annual revenue amount that we want to target? Is there a geography that we want to target? Do we want to target North America and South America? And you put all of these pieces basically into, and you can do other stuff, right? You can go deeper in the targeting, but you put all of these pieces into LinkedIn and your search criteria, and then you develop a search kind of log, only reaching out to learning and development, VPs of learning and development, CHROs inside the financial services, the manufacturing, and the construction and the real estate industry. And they have to have 100 plus employees, and they must be doing over, I don't know, $100 million in annual revenue. And so you take all that search criteria and you put it into LinkedIn, and now you've developed a list, and you know that every single one you're reaching out to, if they book speakers, they're most likely going to have the budget for speakers. And if you've developed message to market fit, then they're most likely going to have a need for what you do. And so now they come to your profile is targeted towards them, all of your marketing materials are targeted towards them and their problems, and it just makes the whole process that much easier because there's an actual use case there for you. Versus a year ago, we're reaching out to everyone, nonprofits, education sector, and it's like, dude, they don't have the money, for what we do in my speaking business, like we can't solve their problem. And so we're wasting time and energy, and if we force them onto a call, it's like, it's not even a good call because there's no need, there's no problem to be solved there. So that's how we do it on LinkedIn, very basic search criteria. I think we have a LinkedIn mastery video where I walk through this kind of a little bit somewhere on my YouTube. Emails and calls are going to be a little different. With emails and calls, we're going to be focusing on like the association and conference space mainly. I mean, if you're in the college space, college K-12 space, you can focus on that, but mainly focusing on the association and conference space. And what you're going to be looking for, and you can do this with AI, you should be doing this with AI, like agentic tools that you can pay $100, $200 a month for, is you basically give the AI criteria. Same thing, right? I'm looking for associations and conferences. You can give it a date, 6 to 12 months out, 6, 12, 18 months out, who have had past speakers. You can give past speakers is going to be one of the biggest indicators, who have had past speakers on similar topics as me, in a similar budget range. So if you're a 10K speaker, that they've hired 7.5K to 20K speakers, and in these industries. And you could even have it look at like, hey, find me specific conferences like on human connection or whatever your topic is. And so you're basically feeding that into the AI, and then you have the AI agentically go out and boom, it pops out 300 stages for you, and it'll give you customized outreach messages to send them. And so that's how you do this, is you get really clear. It all starts like, everyone's like, oh, I just got to do outreach. It's like, no, you got to get clear in your ICP. You got to have clear message to market fit. You got to have marketing assets to align to that. So this is all up here is your marketing engine. And then you get into and let that inform the first piece of the lead gen engine, which is going to be your research. Once you have the research, you actually do the outreach. So you're actually hitting your outreach / pitching. From there, you're following up. So you have the follow-up. And then from there, you're ultimately either going into like a long-term follow-up, or they're going to DQ themselves. They're going to DQ themselves, or they're going to lead to a qualified opportunity, at which point they would opt themselves into / they would go over into the sales engine. But it all starts there. Garbage in, garbage out. And so if we're not putting in it all starts at that kind of research crux. And that took us 7 years to learn. And when you know how to research and you know how to target correctly on the front end, because you understand your ICP and you have the messaging that fits them, it just makes this whole process that much easier. And if you don't have this, it's not going to work. You might close a couple deals, but it's going to be painful. You're going to be sifting through. It's going to be like 10 to 20% of the opportunities that you qualify are actually going to be qualified ones. Versus if you do this, it becomes that much easier. The follow-up becomes easier because dude, yeah, follow-up sucks, right? Lead gen sucks, and doing the follow-up and the cold outreach, it sucks. But when you know it's actually going to lead to an opportunity that's going to multiply for you, that might not, when you land it, be just a 10K opportunity, but it's in front of your ideal buyers at an association, it'll lead to 50K in extra business. It makes this whole process that much easier. So do this, you'll save yourself so much time and energy. We get asked this question all the time. It's not perfect, but it's damn near close. It's a lot better than running just far and wide with your outreach. You'll save yourself so much time and energy. So thanks all. If you guys want to learn more, go ahead, grab the link below. There's a couple other videos you can check out that I will have linked, and we'll see you soon.